Breaking news tonight. Diddy boo-hoo. Sean Puffy Combs behind bars. What is his life like? This as Diddy whines, trying to get transferred to another, more cushy jail. This as charges seemingly mount. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us.
Bail denied a second time for disgraced rapper Sean Puffy Combs after his shocking arrest in a luxury Manhattan hotel.
What are we learning about Diddy, Sean Combs' life behind bars? Listen.
Well, initial reports said Sean Combs is housed in the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Detention Center. We now know the music mogul is on suicide watch. Guards check on Combs on the hour every hour to ensure the rapper has made no attempts to harm himself. The extra monitoring is reportedly a standard practice at the jail for new, high-profile inmates and not the result of Combs' psychological exam at intake. Defense attorney Mark Agnifilo claims his client is strong, healthy, confident, and focused on his defense after spending 6 hours with Combs at MDC after bail is denied.
So let me understand what's happening. Is it true that Sean Combs, aka Diddy, has been placed in a suicide watch ward when he is not really suicidal? Joining me in All-Star panel to make sense of what we're hearing right now, and joining me on the scene, CrimeOnline.com investigative reporter Angelica Martinez. Angelica, thank you for being with us. What do we know about the so-called suicide ward?
Yes, Nancy. So according to some reports, Sean Puffy Combs, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. Brother Love, has allegedly been placed on suicide watch, and he is being held behind me in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. The suicide watch, as we heard, is usually a standard practice for new inmates as they are being taken into the detention facility. But his lawyers say that...
Put her up. Angelica Martinez, did you actually just say that all new inmates go to the medical ward? Did you say that? Because that's not true. I think it's just Diddy is on the medical ward.
So that is allegedly where Sean Puffy Combs is currently being held, as far as we know. But again, I want to highlight that his attorney said that P. Diddy, Sean Puffy Combs, is strong and healthy and focusing on preparing his defense. So reports are a little mixed on that. But yes, he's currently being held in the MDC, which is right behind me, as we know. And we have a former warden, Cameron Lindsay, who is actually on record as saying that Diddy poses as a very attractive target for other inmates in the MDC, saying, quote, to deliver a hit on him would be considered a badge of honor, end quote. So Diddy is in quite a hairy situation, whether he is on suicide watch or just surrounded by other inmates. Doesn't seem like it'll be going too well for him inside the MDC anytime soon.
Joining me at the MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center, Angelica Martinez. Angelica, please stay right there. Interesting that Sean Combs' lawyer is worried about him being a target of a hit. I just finished Diddy's former fiance, now deceased, Kim Porter's book, Kim's Lost Words. Now, this has been published recently, posthumously, after she died, and it details a lot about Sean Puffy Combs' sex proclivities. Don't care. What I care about is forcing sex on other people, and even more important, ordering not just the hit on Tupac Shakur, allegedly, but also the hit on Tupac Shakur in an elevator where he was shot before he was shot and killed. He survived that hit. And according to Kim Porter, if this is to be believed, the attack on Big, the notorious B.I.G., Biggie. Is this real? But now the tables have certainly turned. Now his lawyer is worried about him being the object of a hit behind bars. Straight out to renowned psychoanalyst Dr. Bethany Marshall joining us, author of Deal Breaker. You can see her on Peacock. Dr. Bethany, thank you for joining us. The tables have turned, and I am not in any way condoning more violence. But this is quite the comeuppance to be concerned about a hit by an unknown inmate behind bars when, according to his fiancée, he was the one ordering hits.
That's right, Nancy. Puff Diddy, aka Love, has been in full power and control in every area of his life, including being able to cheat on girlfriends, being able to force sex partners to have hours of sex with unwanted partners while on ecstasy and on other drugs. He is always pulling the levers of power behind the scenes. So the question is, behind bars, would he really be suicidal? I mean, on the one hand, he's impulsive and aggressive, which can be a precursor to suicidality. On the other, Nancy, he loves himself so much, and he is kind of grandiose. He thinks he's controlling everything from behind bars. I doubt he really thinks he's going to be there forever.
I'm very concerned specifically about the allegations in Kim Porter's book. Now, this was released posthumously after she passed, okay? His longtime love, his fiancée, we've been told. And I question on page 26 in my handwritten notes, does Sean Puffy Combs, aka Diddy, hate women? Because according to her, he by far preferred sex with males. Do I care? No, I don't care who he sleeps with. I do care if it turns into rape or if it turns into a sex attack. That I care about. But I'm curious, Dr. Bethany, I'm curious if this is true. Would that be a reason, a psychological reason to drug women and video them and all of these compromising situations, being raped while they're on drugs, having them beaten so badly they have to go hide out to rehabilitate and get rid of their bruises? Is that an underlying? And of course, I'm just a former prosecutor. The why is not anything I would have to prove to a jury. However, practically speaking, a jury would want to know that. Is that a psychological reason to torment women and degrade them and debase them because you really don't want to be with them?
You know, Nancy, it's one of many reasons to torment and torture women. You know, according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, there are 5 perversions, and P. Diddy has every single one. Frauderism, which is rubbing up against an unsuspecting person, exhibitionism, voyeurism, and sadism. Sadism is when you obtain sexual pleasure from inflicting cruelty on other people. In fact, with a true perversion, the perverse person cannot relate to others as full individuals with thoughts, feelings, and emotions of their own. They just become objects to triumph over, and they become sexual objects at that.
I want to be very clear. Sean Puffy Combs, aka Diddy, is not charged with pedophilia. He has not been convicted of anything yet. And under our jurisprudence, he remains innocent until proven guilty. And that is a fact. But I got to tell you, straight out to high-profile criminal defense attorney Tim Jansen, former federal prosecutor and now legal analyst, Tallahassee Democrat. Tim, here's the thing about this book by Kim Porter. 1, is it by Kim Porter? Because it has an as told to here. So is it really from her diaries? Okay. Number 1, that would have to be verified and authenticated. But if it is true, Tim Jansen, it's still hearsay. And it would be very hard to get this into a court of law unless, you can beat the hearsay rule with a lot over 20 exceptions, such as deathbed declarations. And according to a deathbed declaration, she asked for this to be published after her death. And she notes that it will hurt her children when they read it. But, it's so full of very serious allegations, not just the forced sex allegations that we already know of. It talks about celebrities in and out of Diddy's home, all of them sleeping with him and or others. Is that true? Don't know. But what concerns me the most, Tim Jansen, is the very clear and very rich in detail circumstances and conversations that she hears about ordering the hit on Biggie, Notorious B.I.G., and Tupac Shakur. What about it?
All right, so it is hearsay. I'm not sure it's relevant. I'm not sure under 404B that would be admissible in any way. I'm not sure that would satisfy a dying declaration. As you know, dying declaration, impending death has to be occurring or about to occur, which gives it indicia of reliability. Now, if they can find witnesses who can verify any of these facts that they eyewitnessed, and they probably are going out there now trying to find these witnesses, they could possibly call them in if it's part of the charges in the allegations.
Hey, Tim Jansen, I, like you, have already been thinking about those issues. This is a bombshell right here. If it's true, if she really said this, if I can prove this and authenticate it came from her writings, and these are her words. But think about it, Jansen, because what she says she overheard were conversations with another person. So there is another witness. And again, the federal indictment does not touch on the Tupac Shakur killing or the Notorious B.I.G. killing. So that would have to be another case. What I'm saying is charges could be mounting right now, because once the feds get a hold of you, isn't this true, Tim? You were a federal prosecutor, now defense attorney. Once the feds get their hooks in you, you're not going anywhere. They dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And I would not be surprised if more charges were added as part of, in furtherance of, the criminal enterprise they've already charged.
Oh, I think you are exactly right. The criminal enterprise has many tenants. And, once he's in custody and he's away and he doesn't have the power over people, people are a lot more willing to talk. And a person who was protected, who now is looking at 15, 20, 30 years in prison, they might be willing to talk, knowing that he's in custody and probably can't reach him. And they could hide that witness and don't have to disclose his testimony for quite a while. So you could see a superseding indictment, which could add other charges.
Another question, and this goes straight out to Shannon Henry, although I'm going to need a shrink on this one too. Shannon, president founder of SAS, which is Surviving Assault Standing Strong, a nonprofit to help eradicate sex trafficking and abuse on women. Shannon Henry, I kept reading this, every page. I'm like, why did she stay with him? Why did Kim Porter stay with Combs? She's hearing, allegedly, according to her, planning a hit on Tupac Shakur, and then it did happen. He was shot in an elevator years before he was finally killed. He survived that, and he suspected that Sean Combs was behind that hit, okay? And according to Porter, he was. Then she overhears, sitting at the table. It's not like she's listening at the door. She's sitting there hearing the discussion of no more protection for Biggie. If Biggie's not loyal to Combs 150%, then Combs can't protect him anymore. And what if he gets killed? And he goes so far to say in this book, Shannon, that Biggie is worth more to Combs dead than alive. Why? Because it would ignite news and rumors about East Coast, West Coast feud, and it would help his business. Believe it or not. Again, this has to be authenticated. So my question to you is, Shannon Henry, if she's hearing him plotting these crimes, these killings, these shootings, why would she stay with him? Why do women stay with violent men and risk their own lives?
It's really simple, Nancy. It boils down to fear. Nobody comes up and punches you in the face and says, would you like to go on a date? right? We would never go. So what happens instead is they work their way into your life. They're kind. They put you on a pedestal and you feel like everything's good. They see me, they get me, until that pedestal turns into a spotlight and you realize you are in a spotlight only to be controlled, only to be manipulated, and only to be hurt so that they gain what they want, and you stay because you're afraid to leave. And when we look at his history of arson, physical violence, gun violence, mental anguish that he inflicts on people, as well as sexual violence and allegedly murder, it's really clear why somebody would be afraid to walk out of the door.
For a bail appeal hearing, Agnifilo submits an amended bail package. Combs agrees to have no communication with women outside of family members and the mothers of his children, to have no contact with known grand jury witnesses, referring to Victim 1, to use a private intelligence agency to monitor him 24/7. Sage Intelligence will ensure he has no cell phone or internet access, administer weekly drug tests, and turn over a daily visitor's log.
Diddy behind bars in a New York jail with alleged barbaric and dangerous conditions as he's placed on suicide watch.
In addition to snacks and hygiene items, Diddy has the option to purchase full meals from the MDC commissary. His options include stuffed chicken with rice, eggplant parmesan, bone-in chicken, a rib steak, or beef chulant. The estimated billionaire will have to watch his $160 spending limit per trip.
What? Did I just hear a ribeye? Let me check that. A ribeye, beef stew, egg parm, chicken with rice. What? Whoa. Well, let me see. Grits, oatmeal, pancakes, syrup, French toast. I'd like some French toast. What's for lunch? Chicken wrap, hamburgers, baked chicken, tacos. I would love a taco. Dinner, roast beef. I'd like that. Salisbury steak. Fajitas? What? Okay. Sydney Sumner joining me, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, joining us along with Angelica Martinez outside of MDC, Metropolitan Detention Center. Sydney Sumner, a steak? He can have a steak whenever he wants it? What, do you just order it?
Yes, there are several different meals that Diddy could be ordering instead of what's on the regular daily menu. And those meals cost anywhere from $5 to nearly $10 for that rib steak. But yes, he has access to all of that, all kinds of snacks. He does have to watch that $160 spending limit, and it's unclear how many times a week he can visit this commissary. Maybe once a week,
it
twice
says
a week.
$160 per trip. So, okay, I'm just trying to understand why he is getting special treatment behind bars, because his lawyer has been very clear that he is not suicidal at all, but yet he's on suicide watch. What does that mean? That means he's very likely in the medical unit and getting special privileges. Can we just get real for just one moment? Chris McDonough joining me, Director, Cold Case Foundation, former homicide detective and former vice detective. He's the star of YouTube channel The Interview Room. Chris, please, can we speak very clearly and candidly? When rich, famous people go to jail and they're awaiting trial, they can't get into a mini-max, which is a mini, supervised jail, where they have golf and they walk free and they wear regular clothes, that kind of thing. They can't go there until after their trial, okay? Before their trial, when they're in a holding facility such as MDC, they get special privileges. Why? Not sure. But they get a private room very often. They get special treatment, special meals. They don't integrate with GP, general population. They don't eat their meals with general population. It's a very rarefied position to be in. I mean, granted that you are in MDC. How great can it be? But it's still kid glove treatment. He is not suicidal, Chris. His own lawyer has stated that. So why is he getting kid glove treatment, Chris McDonough?
That is an absolutely great question, Nancy, because in these units, they're special housing units, right? The SHU unit. The whole purpose of that is to house somebody in there because of one, a threat assessment comes up that this guy is a high threat and or a high target threat, meaning somebody else wants to take this person out. The fact that this guy has an open buffet with a $160 tab on a daily visit is absolutely ridiculous. And why that would be occurring has to be because of his status, not necessarily because of anything other than that in this particular facility. And the other reason that they want to keep him in the SHU unit is to keep the comms down, the communications down to the outside, because he may have influence on an active investigation.
And I guess, psychologically, Dr. Bethany Marshall, coming from such great luxury and such a lavish lifestyle, I assume that's even harder to go to MDC when you've been used to that as opposed to other people that are not used to that lifestyle. But that doesn't make it fair that he's being treated differently from the rest of the inmates.
No, Nancy, this does not make it fair. I am sure he is enraged at every limitation that's put on him in this place. And I would imagine his offending pattern, as we've seen it unfold, having power over people, being cruel, trying to have kind of dirt over other people so that he can insinuate them into his lives. I bet he's playing that out in the prison system, trying to talk to the guards, butter them up, get them to join in on his sexual fantasies so then he can rat them out and have power over them. The offending pattern is going to go on and on no matter where he is. Even if he has a bologna sandwich for lunch, he's going to have power, try to have power over the person who made the bologna sandwich for him. So it's going to be the same no matter where he goes.
We were talking earlier about how it would, quote, be a badge of honor if someone managed to attack Combs behind bars. Well, also, the reverse side of that coin is that the jailers and other inmates, just as it was with Epstein, can be easily paid off to do him favors, be his butler, give him additional privileges and items other people won't have. The next move, I guarantee you, on the upcoming court hearing in just a few days is going to be trying to get him to a cushy jail. Now, what will be the reason? The lawyer gives the judge something like, I don't like it. Listen.
You can get certain number of federal inmates in Essex County, New Jersey, and in my experience, it's an easier place to deal with. I think it's better for the person being housed there, and it's easier to get access, to him.
That's our friends from AP, and that is the defense attorney, Agnefello, speaking straight out to former federal prosecutor, now defense attorney, Tim Jansen. So you don't just go in front of the judge when you got MDC full of 1,000 people and say, yeah, he doesn't like it there. No, that's not going to work. You can't say, I want to move to Essex County because it's better. So what could the possible reason, a legal reason, for Combs to be moved from MDC to Essex?
Well, he's going to have to come up with a legal reason, like inability to provide legal counsel. His access is denied, or it's not as available in Essex County. He's going to have to give a reason, right? He's in a SHU unit, as they described, for many reasons. But communication to the outside world can still be done. It can be done through his lawyers. Who knows what lawyer brings with them, paralegals who have contact with his people. So he might still be in SHU, but he's still communicating. This judge is probably not going to grant any kind of movement. If there was any judge in federal district up there that would have granted
Put him up,
bond,
please, so I can see him.
It would have been the judge that he has. He has assigned a very fair judge.
Hey, Tim.
Yes.
Tim, at any point were you ever a judicial law clerk?
No.
Okay.
Not a law
So my first year as a Fed, I was a clerk to a federal magistrate. They don't play, by the way.
No.
And let me tell you, wait for it, the eating arrangements amongst the federal judges. All right, wait. I've got a point here. They all go into, typically, the law library. It's big, and all the law clerks and the judges go in there, usually the law clerks, because they're writing all the memos for the judge. They go in there, or unless they have some fancy common area, but ours was the law library, and they eat lunch. all together. You know, they drift in and out just like any lunchroom, right? So what about this judge going into the law library to have his or her sandwich that she brought, and they sit down and they have to look at the other judges and go, yeah, I did it. I gave him bond. Or, yeah, that was me. I transferred him to Essex. Why not? That's not going to happen. What do you think?
Well, I will tell you that the magistrate judges get the hint and they understand what the circuit judges want. They work for the district judge. So they're not going to be granting bonds and giving liberal bonds to conservative judges. On the other hand, if they have
any federal judge that's going to make a ruling in this case, she has to answer to the other judges.
That's correct. And the magistrate definitely answers to the district judges. And the district judge was not going to grant bond. Even the pleading and the motions that were filed by his lawyer, it was basically begging, and it raised every red flag any judge would see: $50 million bond and passports of his family and hiring his own intelligence. It was red flags all over it. I don't know how the lawyer made that argument with a straight face.
Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.
The DHS, Department of Homeland Security source, says Sean Combs kept sensitive and embarrassing videos from the sessions as collateral to ensure silence from his victims, who are often young women, barely old enough or still too young to legally consent to sexual activity. He further says the recovered tapes show women completely out of it, while male sex workers assault them on Combs' orders. The investigator says, in his opinion, Diddy's as bad as Jeffrey Epstein.
So that sounds like a surefire charge of blackmail. When you think about it, Sydney Sumner joining me, crimeonline.com investigative reporter, we know these videos exist, and now evidence is mounting that Sean Combs, a.k.a. Puffy, a.k.a. Puff Daddy, a.k.a. Diddy, a.k.a. Love, would use these embarrassing videos to, quote, ensure the women's silence. In other words, blackmail them. See where I'm going with this, Sydney?
Absolutely, Nancy, and that is a very real possibility. You know, before this indictment came out, all of these alleged videos were all just whispers, all possibilities. Now we know that those videos do exist, and those videos often depict women who are barely old enough or still too young to legally consent to any of these sexual escapades, whether they were willing or not. So we know that these videos exist and that Combs held them over people's head to keep them from speaking about what was happening behind these closed doors in these alleged sex rooms in his Miami mansion.
Okay, you say that, Sydney Summers, that it's long been whispered. I don't know that it was necessarily whispered. Has anybody heard of Eminem, for Pete's sake? One of the greatest rappers that has ever lived. He's a lyrical genius. I mean, if you listen to you may not like some of the words he uses, but the man is brilliant. Everybody on the panel, listen to this. These are lyrics from Eminem, and he is talking about, I'll just say, a friend, and he says, because they like where my homies out west stay. Yeah, what we can just say, what? I'm like a rapper, R-A-P-E-R. Got so many essays talking about friends. And then he says, Eminem says, wait, he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, did he? I mean, is everybody blind? He's talking about friends, essays. He's talking about out west, Combs. And he says, I'm like an R-A-P-E-R, raper. got so many friends. And then Eminem has let me say backbone since I gave up cussing. Wait, he didn't just spell the word rapper and leave out a P, did he? He's clearly calling Combs a raper. And then he goes on to say, R.I.P., rest in peace, Biggie, and Pac, both of y'all should be living. But I ain't trying to beef with him because he might put a hit on me like Keffy D, get him? And that's the only way you're going to be killing me. I mean, Eminem puts it out there. Help me out, Jansen. This is so clear. All this business about whispering about raping women and forced orgies and hits. It's not whispers. Eminem did a rap about it, for Pete's sake.
Well, none of this activity was in silence, and it was all known apparently through all the music industry in Hollywood. Hollywood stars were showing up. And for Eminem to put this out, if these are his lyrics, and did this publicly, and the way it's written and who's included, boy, he's got a lot of courage for Eminem to do that.
Sex performances dubbed freak-offs, over 1,000 bottles of lube, and more revealed in the unsealed indictment of disgraced rapper P. Diddy.
Will Sean Puffy Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, get moved to a better jail? We're waiting to find that out. Another court hearing is set for just a few days from now. It's called a status hearing, but that's basically a catch-all phrase for either side to bring up whatever they want. Let me tell you how this is going to work. We know what the federal indictment says, but we have no idea what all the evidence the state has, federal prosecutors have, to back up those claims. Right now, while he is living it up on a medical ward, even though his lawyer says he is not suicidal, right now, are the feds gathering evidence to mount additional charges? It by far would not be the first time that's happened. Charges like what? Evidence like what? Listen.
According to a Homeland Security agent, Diddy's Miami mansion has several rooms, quote, clearly dedicated to sex. The rooms stocked with sex toys, bondage gear, and lingerie are covered in hidden cameras that record participants from every possible angle. The investigator claims Diddy usually watched in person, but he could access the cameras from his phone or cast the live stream to a TV anywhere in the house.
How likely could it be, Tim Jansen? We see the feds go forward with this indictment after Cassie Ventura's attack video was leaked, where he drags her up and down a hallway, beats her, kicks her, and he is so bold as to come out in a luxury hotel wearing nothing but a towel. There she is trying to get away. This is what blew the whole oh, yeah, here he comes. Here he comes. Now, according to sources, she was running away from a sex worker in Diddy's room, which would mean it had to be being videoed. It's also been claimed by the defense she was leaving because she was jealous. What, leaving without shoes and getting dragged back and beaten? Now, that's not all. Wait for it. This is from our friends at CNN. Then, after he's dragged her that far, he waddles back to his room holding his towel. Now watch Combs. He goes down to the end of the hall, sits down in frustration, and throws an expensive vase at the wall. Yeah, basically he can do anything and get away with it. My point being, the feds came out with the current indictment after that video was leaked. We got it from our friends at CNN, my former TV home at HLM. Now this book is out. Okay? What, if anything, are they going to do triggered by the revelations in this book after and if it's authenticated? It's very in-depth about planning a hit on Tupac Shakur and on Biggie. Very, very clear.
Well, they're going to be probing through that book and probing through the house, probing through witnesses. They probably have teams of investigators that are doing each part of the investigation, the sex and violence, and possibly bringing in the people who were involved in the original assassination, the killing. So if they get together and they can charge up this enterprise, including murder, and they can prove it, then P. Diddy will never see the outside of prison.
Here's another theory. Jansen, here's another theory. Even if they don't go so far as to prove the actual murder, there is the legal criminal complaint of conspiracy to commit murder.
Sure.
Also, what about Kim Porter? Listen.
Even more allegations against Sean Diddy Combs are emerging from Combs' ex-girlfriend, the late Kim Porter. Porter's friends have leaked nearly 60 pages from the diary Porter kept during her relationship with Combs in a memoir. The author of Kim's Lost Words claims the pages were provided by a friend of Porter's, who also claims to have tapes Porter copied from Combs' files depicting Combs having sex with a male teenage pop star.
And more.
The diary pages reveal Combs hits Porter for the first time when she refuses to use a strap-on with him. Porter claims Combs hosts quote-unquote parties that are really just orgies and, quote, everyone wanted in. Porter details finding Combs' vault full of videotapes of Combs' encounters, many with young men, stars he had formerly managed at Bad Boy. The author of the memoir was also provided a photo of Porter using makeup to cover injuries Combs caused.
Does that support claims in the federal indictment that women would have to go hide out for days for their injuries to heal before they could be seen in public after a Diddy freak off? Now, listen to what we hear from the defense attorney, Mark Agnefello. This from our friends at CNN. Listen.
How do you defend against allegations that he hit, kicked, and dragged women when he's on video hitting, kicking, and dragging a woman?
Sure, he's not charged with hitting, kicking, and dragging a woman. He's charged with sex trafficking, and he didn't traffic anybody.
Okay, whoa. Did you hear that, Shannon Henry? It's so perfect from Agnefello. She says, what about beating, kicking, hitting women? And the defense attorney says, oh, well, he's not charged with that. In other words, should you believe me or your lying eyes? I mean, I saw the video, Shannon, and the lawyer's doing an incredible dodge right there.
He absolutely is. And that video shows a microcosm of what the whole relationship with Cassie was. It's, here's an object, I'm in control of it, I'm going to do what I want with it when I want. And that's what he did. And you know, Diddy, I'm so sick of him. I really am. And all of the playbooks that these people have, whether we're talking about Nassar or Cosby or Epstein or Weinstein, they're all on a sliding scale with all of the other rapists and pedophiles and traffickers who serve no use in our society.
The former rapper Jamal Barrow breaks his silence since his conviction and deportation for his role in the 1999 Club New York shooting. Now a leader in the Belize House of Representatives, Barrow maintains his innocence in the crime, claiming he defended Diddy in the aftermath, only for the Bad Boys founder to turn around and call witnesses to testify against me. Barrow says Sean Combs basically sent him to prison and called Combs someone who ruined my life. Barrow, just 18 at the time, was sentenced to 10 years for assault. Barrow served 9 years before he was deported back to his native Belize.
Talk about charges mounting. To Dr. Bethany Marshall, renowned psychoanalyst joining us out of Beverly Hills. Dr. Bethany, someone on the panel earlier said that witnesses may be more likely to come forward now because Diddy is behind bars. Now, this guy that we just heard about, former rapper Jamal Barrow, who is now leading an up-and-up life out of the country, okay? He was part of the 99 New York club shooting, and he went down for it. 9 years behind bars. Now, he's a leader in the Belize House of Representatives, for Pete's sake. But with Diddy behind bars, more is going to come out about that 99 shooting where a woman was actually shot. She lived, but she was shot. It implicated Jennifer Lopez. So when we're talking about Diddy behind bars, how does that affect potential witnesses and victims that were afraid to come forward before?
You know, Nancy, it could cut both ways. On the one hand, there could be witnesses who were afraid to come forward because he was going to ruin their careers or put a hit out on them or threaten them in some way. On the other hand, men like P. Diddy have a preoccupation with other high net worth individuals. That's why he threw all those big parties. And I wouldn't be surprised to learn that in the context of those parties, he took celebrities aside, showed them pictures on his phone, bragged about a dungeon, bragged about sex workers there, and like a spider pulling a little fly into its web, he slowly started to implicate them. So there are a lot of people who are afraid to come forward now that all these allegations have come out, because in some way they're afraid they're going to be implicated. They knew something and didn't say something about it. So we have the powerless who were terrified and now could come forward. Nancy, we also have the powerful who did know something and now are afraid what will come out about them.
You've got to read this. Of course, you have to take it with a box of salt because it has not been authenticated yet. But this is full of celebrities that were in and out of orgies and more. Is it true? I don't know. But if it
Nancy,
is,
if I could make a...
Hollywood's going to get a knock on the door for these people to turn into witnesses. And I want you to hear one more thing, guys. Diddy is living in an alternate universe with a very distorted self-image. Listen.
Combs started hosting his famous white parties in 1998, and they quickly became the place to be on Labor Day, an invite reinforcing your status in the entertainment industry. The parties have been hosted in the Hamptons, Beverly Hills, and even St. Tropez, France. Many have called Combs a modern-day Gatsby, a nickname he relished.
A modern-day Gatsby? Okay, my head spinning. This as Diddy behind bars. Boo-hoo. I wonder how all of the alleged victims feel tonight. We wait as justice unfolds and as we head to the courtroom for a P. Diddy status hearing. And one more word to the wise. Just recently out there, a so-called track from Justin Bieber about how he lost his life, his reputation at a Diddy party. That's not real. That's AI generated. Let's stop and remember an American hero, Deputy Sheriff Jonathan Randall Koleski, Cobb County Sheriffs, shot and killed in the line of duty. Koleski, a U.S. Army and Georgia National Guard veteran, survived by grieving wife Amy, siblings Melissa, Megan, Jared, and Jason. American hero, Sheriff Jonathan Randall Koleski. End of watch. Thank you to our guests, but especially to you for being with us here tonight and every night. Nancy Grace signing off. I'll see you tomorrow night, 6 and 9 o'clock sharp Eastern. And until then, good night, friend. Please join us on our mission to find missing people, especially children, to solve unsolved homicides. If you're on the go, catch us on your favorite podcast app where you can get all of our content where we, in our own way, seek justice.